I've been sent this football shirt mystery box, and all I know is I've got to win the Champions League with the team inside. So let's open it up. This is cruel. This is really cruel. This is Lions Gibraltar, and if the name doesn't give it away, they play their football in Gibraltar, who are ranked 54th out of 55 countries in UEFA's coefficient, which basically means it's the second weakest league in all of Europe. And somehow, we need to get Lions to become the best team in Europe. This challenge genuinely could take us decades to complete. Big thanks to Surprise Shirts for sending over this beautiful jersey. More on them later on, and how you could win a trip with Surprise Shirts and me to Gibraltar to watch Lions play later on in the video. There are 11 teams playing in the Gibraltar Football League. After playing each team home and away, the top 6 play each other once more to decide the winner. Usually, that ends up being Lincoln Red Imps. Our best player and danger man is German striker Patrick Dullock, who still has a lot of pace at 34 years old. Another important player is going to be another German, Leon Volz. He'll be utilised at right wing to assist Dullock. But I also think we're going to see Mika and Jolly be very useful on the left wing as an inside forward. We're setting ourselves up in an attacking 4-2-3-1 to try and outscore our opposition this season. If we win the title, we qualify for the Champions League first qualifying round. Before we think too big though, our journey starts with a match against Bruno's Magpies, where just 6 minutes in, Dullock gets on the end of an Unjolly cross and gives us the lead. Half an hour later, Vols also gets in on the action with a goal, assisted by Unjolly, as we eventually win 4-3. Dullock was really impressive for us. He scored the winner in a 2-1 win over College 1975, the winner in another 2-1 win over Glacis United, and the winner in yet another 2-1 win, this time against Europa Points. We also managed to do a double against Lincoln Red Imps, thanks to Leon Vols getting assists in both games. But it wasn't all plain sailing and 2-1 wins. We did lose 2-1 on a few occasions against St Joseph's, Lynx and Manchester 1962. By the end of the regular season, we're third in the table, with Lincoln Red Imps so far ahead they're practically already won the title. So the best we can hope for in the Championship group is a Conference League spot by finishing in the top 3. But we had a disastrous final 5 games, losing all 5 in a row, all by narrow margins. St Joseph's and College Europa beat us 1-0, Lincoln Red Imps and Europa Point beat us 2-1, whilst Lynx beat us 3-2. This means we fall to 6th place and miss out on European football. Not the season we wanted. So over summer, we're going to have a full clear out and rebuild the team. Whilst I'm doing that, let me tell you all about Surprise Shirts and this insane trip to Gibraltar that you could win. Surprise Shirts send out mystery football shirt boxes. You pick your size, how obscure you want the club to be, and any colours or teams you don't want to receive. They'll then send you an authentic football shirt from any club or nation from around the world. It's a really cool way to expand your shirt collection or find a new team to manage in Football Manager. Now they've partnered up with Lions Gibraltar, who were formed in 1966 in the euphoria of England winning the World Cup. And after writing to the Football Association, they're the only club in the world who can use the 3 lions crest. As part of this, they've teamed up with Surprise Shirts to offer this ultimate VIP behind-the-scenes look at a real-life professional football club. In September or October this year, you, me and Surprise Shirts will head out to Gibraltar to watch a live match, go to a training session, visit the club sports bar, meet the players, and so much more. To enter, all you have to do is order a mystery box and use code TOMJIB at checkout. One lucky person who uses that code will receive a golden ticket just like this in their mystery box, which means they win a spot on the trip fully paid for by Surprise Shirts. Surprise Shirts also want to extend the invitation to their subscription members. They have a subscription service where every month you get sent a box. So if you are a subscriber, feel free to come and join us in Gibraltar. There's a link to Surprise Shirts in the top line of the description. Good luck on entering the competition, and if you win, I promise we can play Football Manager together on the plane on the way over. We signed 10 new faces to the team over summer on free transfers to improve the squad. My favourite signing is friend of the channel, Jalen Duarte. Jalen helped me out massively last year when I went to Gibraltar for the first game of my Champions League adventure, so I've signed him up to repay the favour. We've also got James Parkinson returning to the club. He started his career with us before moving elsewhere, but we need more midfielders and he fits the bill. With our attack being so good last season, I didn't feel a need to replace our attackers, and they thanked me by scoring plenty of goals. Patrick Dullock was even more lethal this season, as he scored a brace past Monskalp, with Jalen Duarte getting the third in a 3-1 win. Mika Njoli was as effective on the left wing, scoring in a 4-2 win against College 1975, assisted by Vols, and in a 3-1 win over Lynx, who beat us twice last season. However, one team did beat us twice this time around. Bruno's Magpies beat us 2-0 and 5-1, whereas St Joseph's beat us 4-0 on the final day of the regular season. And because of that, they're 2 points ahead of us heading into the championship group, with Bruno Magpies hot on our tails in a 3-way fight for the title. But a 2-1 loss to St Joseph's, and then an agonising 5-4 defeat to Bruno's Magpies, put an end to our title dreams. We do finish in 3rd place, which is an improvement on last season, but it's not the title. At least we do make the Conference League. Despite scoring 26 goals last season, Patrick Dullock is retiring and we need to replace him. So we picked up Adam Garcia from College 1975 to take the reins and lead the line for this season. We also signed Gibraltar national team legend Joseph Cipollina to add strength at the back. We're taking on La Fiorita from San Marino in the Conference League first qualifying round, and Adam Garcia scored twice in the first leg as we romped home to a 6-1 win. In the second leg, Mika Njoli scored a brace as we won 4-1 in San Marino to progress. But we then got battered 5-2 on aggregate by Cypriot side Apoel to get knocked out, which is kind of what we were expecting really. So we focused back on the domestic season, and it started well, with our front three of Garcia, Njoli and Vols all scoring goals. In fact, in our first 15 games, we'd won 11, drawn 2 and lost just 2. An unbelievably good return. But then in the last 5 games of the season, we lost 3 and drew 2, which saw us plummet down the table to 4th. A couple of decent wins in the championship group, as well as a few losses, mean we stay 4th in the table and just miss out on European football. So next season, I think we need a change of formation and some new attackers. I spent a lot of budget sending a scout to Brazil last season, and he's found so much talent for us to sign. So in come 4 Brazilians, as well as 3 players who have international caps for Gibraltar to balance things out. Sergio Lin Santos is going to be our new number 9, and I'm hoping he's going to score us 20 goals every season. But Spanish winger Casanova might give him a run for his money for the top scorer award, as he looks lethal from the right wing. I want to ensure we're more solid defensively, as avoiding defeats is so important given how few games that we play, so this 4-3-3 should help us out in that department. Lin Santos scored his first goal for us in a 3-1 win over Monskalp, whereas Casanova scored a hat-trick in a 4-2 win over Lynx, who have had our number in the first few seasons. But there was one man outscoring both of them. Mika Njoli was quietly having an all-time season. Often when he scored 1 goal, he would then score a second. He got a brace against College Europe, Bruno's Magpies, Monskalp, Glacis United, and Manchester 1962 home and away to be our top scorer this season. Although somehow his 21 goals in 18 games isn't enough to be the league's top goal scorer. But it is enough to put us top of the pile at the end of the regular season and in pole position for the title and the Champions League spots. Annoyingly, in the championship group, we did suffer a 4-2 defeat against Lincoln Red Imps, which put a dent in our title hopes. St Joseph's, on the other hand, drew with Lincoln Red Imps, but luckily for us, they also drew with College Europa. We, on the other hand, managed to beat them 6-0, with Casanova scoring a brace in the process to secure a huge 3 points. We then beat Bruno's Magpies 3-1, which presented us with a golden opportunity. With 2 games to go, we have a 4-point lead over St Joseph's. So if we can avoid defeat against them in our next match, the title and a Champions League spot is ours. But we played ourselves into trouble early on. We had chances to get back into the game, Lin Santos' effort went narrowly wide of the post, and Njoli had a close range effort to go over the crossbar. So we needed some luck, and that arrived when Lin Santos was brought down in the penalty area, which allowed Njoli to level the scores from the spot. So as we head into the break, if the scores stay as it is, the title is ours. But St Joseph's know this as well, and they piled pressure on. A shot from distance went just wide an hour in. But they didn't have our desire. Lin Santos came deep to win back possession for us on the halfway line, and this allowed us to counter. A ball through to now right back Vols allowed him to pick a low cross to Lin Santos, who put us in front. But we still have work to do, because not long after, St Joseph scored an outrageous free kick to make it 2-2. In the 90th minute, we put our bodies on the line to defend a last corner before clearing the ball to safety. We got it through to Lin Santos, who sprinted towards goal, placed his shot, and made it 3-2 to Lions, winning the club their first league title and qualifying for the Champions League. So we've ticked off the first milestone of the journey by winning the Gibraltar Football League. The next few seasons, we need to focus on retaining the title and qualifying for the Champions League phase. Jace Olivero is the first signing that we've paid money for, as we spent £7,000 to bring the left back to the club, as our focus is to improve defensively. It's also why we signed Englishman Danny Webster, who is on paper the best player at the club. Sadly though, that wasn't enough to beat Astana from Kazakhstan in the Champions League first qualifying round, who were a really tricky team to come up against, and they beat us 6-2 on aggregate. Not to worry though, because we now get a shot at Conference League qualifying, and we absolutely smashed FC Santa Coloma of Andorra in the second qualifying round, 15-0 on aggregate. However, Bate in the third qualifying round would be tougher, and we drew 1-1 with the side from Belarus in the first leg. But at our place, a hat-trick from Sergio Lin Santos helped us win the match 4-2 on the night and 5-3 on aggregate. Then in the final qualifying round at home, we were the much better side and beat Karabag 4-1 as Brazilian centre mid Carlos Alberto scored. He also scored in the second leg, which we went on to win 2-0 and qualify for the Conference League phase, where we've been given a tough run of games, at least for a club at our level. And it showed. Our improved defence might have been enough to qualify for the league phase, but it wasn't good enough to take on the big clubs from Europe, as we lost 4 of our 6 matches. We drew 1-1 against RFS from Latvia, and we did manage to beat Maribor from Slovenia. Despite that though, we get knocked out in the league phase, but I don't really mind, because we now have tons of UEFA money, and this is going to make life so much easier for us in the coming seasons. Our squad is also really strong now, so we had an invincible season domestically to give the Champions League another shot next season. We spent £35,000 on new goalkeeper Carlos Pinto from Sabadell in Spain, and he's a big upgrade between the sticks. He proved this by helping us beat Albanian side Tirana in the Champions League first qualifying round, 5-2 on aggregate. We then just managed to get past Sutjeska Nikšić as 3-2 winners in the second qualifying round. And then we managed to beat RFS, who we drew with last season, 5-2 on aggregate to make the final qualifying round of the Champions League. But here, Slovakian side Dunajska Streda flexed their muscles and beat us 6-2 on aggregate, ending our Champions League run for the season. I'm not sure we're going to get as nice a run of that through Champions League qualifying ever again. It does mean we get put into the Europa League though, although we do have some really tough fixtures, but at least we are seeing some progress. To my surprise, we won our first game in style, as we absolutely battered Cypriot side Apoel 6-0 to temporarily go top of the league phase table. Obviously, we then just slipped down the table as we lost 5 of our remaining 7 games pretty heavily. But we did pull off 2 impressive draws, both away from home against FC Midtjylland and FC Porto. So I feel like that is something to build on as we get knocked out in the league phase. But we are now raking the money in, which is helping fund infrastructure projects. We're now able to improve our training facilities every season, which is helping our players develop. We weren't quite as impressive this season in the domestic league, as this time around we do lose a game, but another title means another shot at the Champions League. We smashed our club's record transfer fee to sign right back Jean Loboton from Zamora in Spain. We also picked up Daniel Sora on a free transfer to play at left back as we want to improve how we progress up the pitch out wide. Jan got 3 assists and Saura got 1 as we beat Bosnian side Mostar 7-3 on aggregate in the Champions League first qualifying round. But they couldn't do enough for us as we lost in the second qualifying round to Partizan from Serbia 3-1, dropping us down into the Europa League. But here, we were really impressive. First, we managed to destroy FCSB from Romania 9-2 on aggregate, before then beating Ferencvaros 4-2 in the final qualifying round to once again make the Europa League. But I reckon we are going to get absolutely destroyed in the league phase. However, that wasn't the case. We beat Moldovan side Sheriff Tiraspol 4-0, and followed that up with a 2-0 win against Jeska Nikšić. We then beat Copenhagen 2-1 with a late goal to seal the 3 points, before then beating Austrian side Wolfsberger 3-1. The real icing on the cake though was a 3-2 win away at FC Porto, where we had been 2-0 down an hour into the match, and then a thumping 6-2 win over Rangers, where we scored all 6 goals in the first half. They totally battered us last season, so it was nice to get revenge. 2 losses to Lazio and Maribor mean we finish 4th in the league phase table and go straight through to the round of 16, where we came up against Red Star Belgrade and got absolutely shafted 6-2 on aggregate. Quite the anticlimactic end to the campaign. Luckily, we can try it all over again next season as we win a 3rd league title in a row. Lin Santos has been our talismanic striker for 4 seasons now. He scored 51 goals in all competitions last season, but he's now being replaced by Gustavo Rufo, who we signed from Recreativo for £300,000. He's not as good in the air, but he does seem to be an improvement in every other area. We're also upgrading from Casanova on the right wing with Juan Dorta, who we paid £1.2 million for to get him away from Ibiza. They both scored twice in a 9-0 aggregate win against Namen Grondo from Belarus in the Champions League first qualifying round. And without their contributions against Slavia Prague, we wouldn't have been able to just win that tie 6-5 on aggregate. The 3rd qualifying round was a little easier. We beat Finnish side Inter Turku 4-1 on aggregate without the new boys even scoring. But in the final qualifying round, Gustavo Rufo was instrumental. As with his quality, we were able to sneak past Shakhtar Donetsk 4-3 on aggregate to finally make it to the league phase of the Champions League, ticking off the next milestone on our way to winning the competition. I think reaching the league phase is a huge achievement, so to celebrate that achievement, let's all press the subscribe button right now. Would really appreciate it. 12.7 million for just reaching this stage of a tournament is insane money for us. And I guess it's going to be the only money we're going to get given the quality of teams that we're coming up against. However, we won our first 2 games of the league phase. We beat Real Sociedad 2-1 away from home before travelling to Eindhoven and scoring a 92nd minute winner to beat PSV. At home, we were also able to beat Besiktas 2-1 with Rufo scoring the winner, and he also got a goal as we welcomed Atalanta to Gibraltar and beat them 3-2. Draws with Man City and Galatasaray helped us earn an extra 2 points, meaning with 14 points in total, we finish 14th in the table and qualify for the knockouts. So we've accomplished 2 milestones in 1 season, and we look way ahead of schedule. We've been drawn against Newcastle United in the playoff round, and at St James's Park, we managed to secure a 1-1 draw. Newcastle then took the lead in Gibraltar from a set-piece routine that we didn't defend very well, and then the referee gave them a penalty, but I genuinely can't work out why. Either way, they scored it. But we fought our way back into the game, scoring from a corner, and then in the 94th minute, Lin Santos came off the bench to make it 2-0 on the night, taking the game to extra time when Newcastle United scored in the 116th minute to win the tie and knock us out. I'm so proud of the team though. They did so well this season and we came so close to reaching the final 16 of the Champions League. We can have another go next season after we won all 25 domestic games for a perfect season in the Gibraltar Football League. Thanks to all the Champions League money, we were able to spend big on new players for the future. Despite reaching the Champions League knockouts, we still don't have quite enough reputation to be signing actually really good players right now to build for our team for right now. So we're still having to try and sign promising youngsters for the future. Clinton Morrow, signed from Asante Kotoko, is maybe the best of the bunch. as his mentors are already insane for just 18 years old. But I think we might see more of Robert Planaguma, as he looks very handy as an inside forward. He actually scored 6 goals across the 4 qualifying rounds as we made it back to the Champions League for a second season in a row. But this time, things didn't go to plan. We lost 1-0 to Liverpool away from home, and Ajax battered us 4-1 in Amsterdam. We then had 2 frustrating losses to RB Salzburg and Club Brugge. Both were games that I felt like we could have won, whilst a goalless draw with Young Boys was far from ideal. I'd say draws with Barcelona and Napoli were really good results, but just the 1 win means we aren't repeating last season's achievements. We finished 29th in the table and miss out on the knockouts. At least we had another invincible domestic season to win our 6th title in a row. It kind of feels like the signings that we made last season weren't particularly effective, and the same thing might be true this season. Australian striker Sam Riley, though, does have the foundations to be lethal. We just need to improve him in certain areas like his composure. Arguably, he's better in some areas than Rufo, and he's 4 years younger. So if we can improve him, he might take us to the next level. He may have been poor in training since signing for the club, but Saudi Arabian midfielder Ibrahim Al Nazem might actually be the best player in the team right now, and I think he'll be able to elevate us all as the heartbeat of the midfield. We may have got lucky in Champions League qualifying. We were not at our best away from home, but we did still manage to make it all the way through to the league phase. However, we played even worse here. We drew 1-1 with Legia Warsaw thanks to a late goal from Dorta, before then losing 2-0 away at Nice. We then lost 2-0 at home against Chelsea, and agonisingly 1-0 away at Anfield against Liverpool. We did gain some confidence from a 1-1 draw away at Napoli though, and we finally got our first win of the league phase when we beat Anderlecht 3-2 at home. We then had a really convincing 4-1 win against Rangers, before we got a clutch result. We beat Borussia Dortmund 1-0 on the final day of the league phase. And with that win, we sneak ourselves into the top 24 and secure a spot in the knockout rounds. We travelled to Naples, and for the 3rd time against Napoli, we drew. We actually held a 2-1 lead at the half-time break, thanks to 2 goals from Gustavo Rufo. But in the second half, Rafa Marin was pushed over from a corner, and the referee gave the Italians a penalty that Profundi slotted away. So we were high on confidence going into the second leg, but we fell apart. We were able to pull one back an hour into the game, but Al Nazem gave away another penalty from a corner, which Profundi scored, meaning Napoli beat us 5-3 on aggregate. So it's really disappointing to lose again, but we are becoming a side that is consistently starting to become a knockout team in the Champions League, and that is good progress. Especially because very few of the signings that we've made over the last 2 seasons have been real difference makers. I mean, Rufo isn't even the top scorer in the Gibraltar Football League, but at least we do win lots of games there, and that's title number 7 wrapped up. All our players are still really young though. So I'm going to do something controversial over summer. Ousmane Diabate is the only signing that we've made this summer to replace an outgoing midfielder. I want to trust the players, so I want to give them a little bit of consistency. Perhaps because of that, we did have a brief scare in the second qualifying round of the Champions League, but other than that, we looked pretty convincing. And we looked even more convincing in a 6-0 win against Red Star Belgrade at home in the league phase. We also travelled to Lyon and beat the French side 2-1 before heading to Florence and beating Fiorentina by the same scoreline. RB Leipzig were no match for us when they came to Gibraltar. We beat the Germans 4-2 for our 4th victory of the league phase. Draws with Dortmund and Monaco mean we have a very healthy points haul from those 8 games, and we only just miss out on a top 8 finish, our highest finish so far in the Champions League. Slavia Prague await us in the playoff round, and like clockwork, Al Nazem gave away another knockout round penalty, which they scored to go on to win the first leg 1-0. This was a huge opportunity for us to make the round of 16, so we have to focus up at home, and luckily, we did. We scored 3 times in the first 20 minutes, and then held on to secure a 3-1 aggregate victory. So the round of 16 is the furthest that we've been so far, and with Real Madrid up next, I suspect it's the furthest that we're going to go. However, we managed to take an early lead as Real Madrid failed to clear our free kick 4 minutes in. And then just 2 minutes after that, Rufo dodged a slide challenge to open himself up and make it 2-0. He was in the right place at the right time an hour later to make it 3-0 before Clinton Morrow scored a banger from the D to make it 4-0. Madrid did pull one back before the end, but a 4-1 win is a miracle. Although not as big as a miracle as keeping a clean sheet at the Bernabeu and scoring 2 goals ourselves to absolutely destroy Real Madrid 6-1 on aggregate. Genuinely, I am in shock at that result. With Newcastle up next, I'm starting to think we could go all the way. So imagine how giddy I got when Clinton Morrow scored 3 minutes into the first leg to give us the lead. And then think how excited I was when we doubled the lead 10 minutes later. After that, Sam Riley pounced on a poor pass and beat the keeper to make it 3-0 in the 86th minute. Newcastle did grab themselves a consolation goal in the 94th minute, and then they scored the first goal in the second leg, making it 3-2 on aggregate. I was much less excited then. But in the second half, winger João Vitor was brought down and we were given a penalty, which Al Nazan, who is usually giving them away, scored it, meaning we win 4-2 on aggregate. And all that stands between us and the final is Barcelona. We held strong for 48 minutes, but eventually Karim Konate scored first for Barca. But they weren't looking strong, and we very quickly got back on level terms with them. However, it seems like the referee is on Barca's side, because he gave them the most dubious of penalties 78 minutes in, which Ansu Fati scored. The game was heading to a 2-1 defeat, but in the 95th minute, Barcelona managed to sneak in a third goal, which made our heads drop. So much so, we lost all concentration, and Barca scored a goal straight from kickoff to make it 4-1. We put in a valiant performance at home, with Al Nazan scoring early on in the game. Later on, Sam Riley powered home a shot to make it 2-0 before half-time, but Kylian Mbappe scored for Barca in the second half, and their defence held strong. We won on the night, but lose 5-3 on aggregate, and we get knocked out in the semi-finals. So close, yet so far to that final. If we didn't just lose all composure in the stoppage time of the first leg, we could have made it there. I do not want to miss out on this opportunity again. So I spent £42 million over summer on brand new players for the club who now want to join us following our amazing run. Jorginho Dua is the best of the bunch, and he will be integral getting up and down the left flank. We've also signed Fran Ferreira from Real Madrid to play on the opposite flank as we try to improve our defence. Which is also why we've signed a new goalkeeper in Bruno Montivero, who I'm hoping will be able to keep a few more clean sheets for us. Our good performances in the Champions League now means we get to start in the second qualifying round, and once again we easily cruise through to the league phase, where we went unbeaten. We thrashed Galatasaray 3-0 at home to get off to an ideal start. Gustavo Rufo then scored again as we beat Lille 3-0, before Sam Riley scored the game's only goal as we beat PSG 1-0 in Gibraltar. Although we were helped out by the referee giving PSG a weird straight red card. There was no card to help us beat Real Madrid though. We won that 1-0 fair and square in Madrid to prove that last season wasn't a fluke. A 5-1 win away at Villarreal really cemented just how good our team is as we look for another deep run this season. Draws with Marseille, Copenhagen and Ajax mean we collect 18 points and finish 5th in the table, so we skip the playoff round and go straight through to the round of 16. Here we're up against Newcastle United, who scored first at St James's Park. Luckily, we were in the right place at the right time to capitalise on the pinball machine in the penalty area, but Newcastle then scored an hour into the game to retake the lead. We did equalise though a few moments later to end the first leg at 2-2, but in Gibraltar, Newcastle brought their A game and scored 3 goals in the first half to defeat us 5-2 on aggregate. Turns out spending 42 million might not have been the answer, at least in Europe, because we had our second season of winning every single domestic game. Last summer, we were very focused on bringing in defenders to the club, but the Newcastle game might suggest we don't have enough decent attackers. So we signed Wilmer Guzman from Liverpool to play on the right wing and replace Dorta, who has been starting for us for 5 seasons now. And as Sam Riley hasn't really worked out for us, Salvatore Dalla Riza from Bologna is going to be the new man leading the line for us this season. Despite a 0-0 draw with Slovan Bratislava, 29 goals scored, 13 of which came from our new signings, and just 2 conceded is a pretty good record in qualifying. Dalla was also scoring plenty of goals in the league phase, as he helped us beat Juventus 3-0, Lyon 3-0, and scored twice past SK Rapid Vienna in another 3-0 victory. Guzman got on the score sheet as we beat Atalanta 3-0, but losses to Barcelona and finally Real Madrid mean we don't have as good a return as last season, so we only finished 10th in the table and have to go through the playoff rounds. Luckily, we were given a kind draw here, as we have to play Hammarby, and in the first leg, we scored 4 goals to pretty much guarantee our spot in the round of 16. A 1-0 win in the second leg sealed the deal for us and sets up another date with Real Madrid. Could we do it again? Well, in Gibraltar, we got pretty fortunate when Antonio turned the ball into the back of his own net, gifting us the lead. But we made our own luck when we scored a really nice goal to make it 2-0. Of course, it wouldn't be a Champions League match if we didn't give away a penalty, which Real went on to score. But a late third goal for us gives us breathing room at the Bernabeu. Naturally, we conceded another penalty in the second leg as we shoved over one of their players. Musiala scored from the spot, but it was the game's only goal, and we progress as 3-2 winners. Next up, it's Bayern Munich. Finally, it was time for us to score a penalty, as Bayern brought down our left back in the area, and Clinton Morrow scored from the spot. Then off the bench, Gustavo Rufo got us a late second goal to put us in the driving seat, which was lucky. We lost 1-0 in Munich, but we sneak by as 2-1 aggregate winners. This means we're back in the semi-finals and we're looking to go one better than we did 2 seasons ago. But things did not go to plan in Milan. AC scored early on, which did worry us, but not long after that, we were able to pull one back to alleviate those fears. However, it was clear AC Milan were better on the night, and they scored twice more before half-time to end up as 3-1 winners from the first leg. So with our home fans behind us, we knew we could turn it around, but we had to deliver. Slowly but surely, the goals started to come, as we made it 3-3 on aggregate. Then, 30 minutes in, Bruno Silva gave us the goal to take us in front, but we just couldn't hold on. Late on in the game, Kamada was just played onside as he ran towards goal and scored, taking the game to penalties. AC were up first, and Montevero made a huge save, which means we go 1-0 up. Then for AC's second penalty, Montevero made another huge save, which then meant we went 2-0 up when we scored our second penalty. Unbelievably, Montevero then made a third massive save, which meant we won the game when Planaguma scored, taking us to the final. If we can beat Man City, we win the Champions League and complete the challenge. 6 minutes into the match, City had possession and were trying to break through down the left-hand side. What looked like a pretty easy cross to deal with was taken out of the keeper's hands and ended up in the back of the net. And that ended up being the only highlight of the first half in a game with very few chances. An hour in, City were once again making moves down the left flank, picking out a cross and scoring a second goal. Luckily for us, VAR intervened and revealed the initial pass out wide was offside, a huge let-off for us. But we created nothing in the game. Tonight was Man City's night, as they win 1-0 in a game with just 3 highlights. Looks like we aren't completing the challenge just yet. So we spent 20 million on Carlos Teta over summer, our most expensive purchase yet, to be our new rock at the back. Despite losing to Red Star Belgrade, we did make it through the qualifying rounds. It is really weird to be a finalist last season, but having to go through so many qualifying rounds the next season. Especially because we went on a rampage in the league phase. We beat Lyon 2-0 and Marseille 2-1, with Della Riza scoring in both games. He also got a brace against Arsenal in a 3-2 win, and did the same against Ferencvaros in a 5-0 win. Real Betis were swept aside 6-0, and we eased our way past Bayern Munich as 1-0 winners. But my favourite moment was when we demolished Real Madrid again, this time 4-0. We've played them 7 times and won 5 of those games. Weirdly, the one game that we did lose was to Copenhagen of all sides, but it doesn't matter, because we finished top of the league phase table and are surely the favourites to win the trophy. So our prize for topping the league phase is a knockout round game against Real Madrid. which I would normally be very happy about. We have a great record against them. But this time, they decided they knew how to play football and they took an early lead in the match. We were then on the end of another dubious penalty decision, which gave Real a 2-goal lead. Now, we did start a fight back, and we scored 2 goals in quick succession to bring the scores back level, but Musiala scored his 2nd goal of the game late on to win the match 3-2. Now, we did beat them in the second leg, but only 1-0. So this means the game is going to penalties. Unlike against AC Milan, neither keeper was making a save, as both sides kept burying their shots. The closer we got to sudden death, the more nervous the players got, and the more nervous we were getting, because no one was missing, until we got to our 5th penalty and the keeper made the save. Madrid knock us out, and we have to try all over again next season. To help with our weakest area, the centre of midfield, we've signed Mexican international Omar Rivas to cause havoc and boss the centre of the pitch. He helped us get through a flawless qualifying campaign and once again reach the league phase. He scored his first Champions League goal for us in a 3-0 win over RB Salzburg, and then grabbed another in a 3-0 home win against Benfica. De La Riza was still scoring for fun, as he helped us beat Lyon 2-0 with a brace, got our first in a 4-0 win against Barcelona, and the first as we comfortably beat Ajax 3-1. He also scored against Liverpool, but we could only draw that game 1-1, and he was powerless to stop us losing 1-0 away at Villarreal. And whilst he didn't score, he did pop up with an assist in a 3-1 win at Roma. It's not quite as good as last season, but we'll take 3rd place and a spot in the round of 16, where thankfully things are a bit nicer for us as we've been drawn against Ajax. This ended up being like a qualifying round match. We won the first leg in Amsterdam 4-0, with De La Riza scoring a brace, and then we won the second leg at our place 7-0 to lay down a marker to all the other teams in Europe. But now we need to beat Man City, who beat us in the final 2 years ago. Chido Obi, who scored in the final, opened up the scoring just 2 minutes into the game. 10 minutes after that, we got ourselves back on level terms, with De La Riza delivering the goods. But it felt like Man City are just that bit better than we are, as they scored twice more before the half-time break to eventually win the game 3-1. With the threat of elimination, we had nothing to lose, and we were a bit fortunate in how we opened up the scoring. We were even more fortunate in the way that we scored our 2nd goal, as Man City fell asleep at the back, taking the game to extra time. And it's here where we completed the comeback. Backup winger Miroslav Pospisil got on the end of a cross to win 4-3 on aggregate. To reach another final, we now have to try and beat Juventus, who seem to only be able to win games 1-0 on aggregate. So when De La Riza scored in the first leg, we knew we had a great chance to win, and an even bigger chance when he scored a 2nd goal to win the first leg 2-0. However, Juventus scored first at our place, and we began to worry. But we were worrying for no reason, as we scored in the second half and won 3-1 on aggregate to make it back to the final. So now all we need to do is beat Barcelona, and the challenge is complete. Barcelona came out flying and were pinging passes across the pitch to evade our tackles. This led to Camavinga being put through into the area, but Montevero made a huge save to keep the scores level. Next, it was our turn to attack, and we were much more direct. Right back Philip got past his man, swung an across, and we were only denied a goal by the crossbar. Half time, and the scores are 0-0. Incredibly, there wasn't a single highlight in the second half, and we thought the game was going to extra time until it came down to the 87th minute. And we had a corner that was cleared. But we managed to recycle possession and get it to centre-back Edvan, who took a wild swing and managed to beat the keeper, giving us the lead. Barca were throwing the kitchen sink at us after that to try and get a goal back, but their close-range header missed the target. And from the resulting goal kick, we won the second ball, found right-winger Guzman, who unleashed De La Riza to beat the defence and score us a 2nd goal in the 90th minute to win Lions Gibraltar the Champions League and complete the challenge set to us by Surprise Shirts. Remember to order your surprise shirt and use code TOMJIB at checkout to be in with a chance of winning a trip with me and surprise shirts to Gibraltar to watch Lions play in real life. Once you've done that, you should watch this video. This is maybe the most outrageous challenge I've taken on in Football Manager. I have to win the top flights in all of the 5 Nordic countries and then use one of those teams to try and win the Champions League. Oh, and I've got to do it within 15 seasons, which is pretty difficult to do.